Let me know when it's live. Welcome back to another episode of Wisco Fanatics. You obviously have myself and Tyler. You guys saw us on Wednesday. We are joined by Bryant and Packers.com editor Mike Spofford was nice enough to join us tonight. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. Hope all's well.
Yeah, well, we'll always have you whenever you're free. I know Bryant was pretty vocal in our chat. He wanted to start the show with something. So, Bryant, take it away, bud.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of address some of the people I've seen talking about Aaron Rodgers, saying it was karma, being upset about, oh, great, we're only getting a second-round pick. And I just want to talk to those people and be like, yeah, go and touch grass or something, because you're talking about, as a Packer fan, if you're a Packer fan saying this, for more than a decade, we got to wake up week one and legitimately think our team had a chance to win the Super Bowl. So for you to immediately just, whatever your thoughts are on how he left the team, for you to come out and almost celebrate an injury, like a devastating injury like that, I was excited for Aaron. Sure, I wanted them to, karma would be if he went to the Jets and they went 6-11 and we got even a higher pick. Karma isn't rupturing your Achilles. Okay, this is terrible for football. This was someone I was going to root for and look, forward to watching him play. He was somewhere he wanted to be. His relationship had run the course with Green Bay. But don't get it twisted. He was an amazing player. He is a Hall of Fame player for the Green Bay Packers. Well, his name will be forever put on Lambeau Field soon enough. So to call yourself a fan and then to celebrate that injury, I'll just kind of ask you to take a step back and put it in perspective a little bit. For as far as the pick concerned, if he's healthy on the Jets, we're getting a late first. Now we're probably getting an early second. So if you really want to complain about that, it's not that much of a difference, right? So I just wanted to say, seeing people celebrate it was pretty disgusting. So
let me add something to that. It has nothing to do with the Jets, but it has to do with the Vikings, actually. And Alexander Mattison was getting some very disgusting DMs last night after a rough game for him, rough game for the Vikings offense, really, besides the second half. They opened it up a little bit, but some of the stuff that these fans, and I'm going to quote them, fans are saying to these players, like, you have to realize that these are people, man. That's somebody's son. That's somebody's, he might have I don't even know if he has kids, but that could be somebody's dad. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need to be seeing stuff like that. It's the same thing about injuries. That's the nothing that we don't deal with that, right? We don't deal with injuries around here. You pick on injuries, you cheer for injuries. This is not the page for you, because we have no tolerance for that. So don't be cheering for injuries. You don't need to be talking disgusting to these players, because they're people. Just be better. This is a form of entertainment. It's a sport at the end of the day, right? It's something that we all enjoy, obviously. That's why we come here every Friday night to give you guys breakdowns of the games. But, we're not cheering for injuries or sending disgusting DMs to people. So I thought that needed to be said.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the players being people, I think who was it, like Demaryius Thomas, or can't remember the name of him, for the linebacker for the Saints, talking about his daughter struggling with seizures and the struggle they've been going through with that. Go listen to his press conference about that, and it'll kind of put you in perspective of that they're actual people. And so to some of that stuff is just, I just wanted to open with saying that. I thought it was kind of terrible to see that instantly. And it was actually some people that, there was one in particular I kind of tweeted back at, complaining about the pick right away. And he doesn't work for the Packers or anything, but he covers the Packers a lot. And I was just like, come on, man. Like, really? Like, I respect your opinion, and you're out here complaining, oh, we're only getting a second-round pick right away.
Only a second rounder. Like, dude, it's still a second-round pick.
Yeah.
Only a second-rounder.
The trades. Yeah.
And look what we've got from them already, to be completely honest with you. I mean, we moved up. We got Lucas Van Ness. We were able to get who else did we get? I forgot. Kicker Anders Carlson, and there was one other person that I'm blanking on, but we got a couple. Oh, was it Brooks? It was either Brooks. I think it was Brooks that we got. But we got a couple good players already, and we're going to be adding another second rounder to this roster, which looks young and fast and good. So I mean, you're going to be complaining about that. That's ridiculous.
I'm sure, Mike, you probably seen it around the team as well. I'm sure there were some people pretty beat up about, that's someone they played with for a long time. I can't imagine, like, you've seen Bakhtiari come out against it almost immediately of the turf. So it's affecting our team still. People, whether it's a business and he went to play for someone else, but people on this team, our team, still love that guy. So
yeah, I mean, the locker room, Wednesday is the first real day of the week that we're allowed in the locker room after practice to talk to guys. And of course, a big topic of conversation was Rodgers' injury. And and those guys in the locker room are sick for him. They, whether it's a guy, who played with him for a year or two, or a guy like Bakhtiari, who's one of his best friends. Nobody, and trust me, nobody in that locker room wanted to see that. It was, it's a business. Business decisions are made, trades are made. This is, Aaron Rodgers is not the first Hall of Fame quarterback to be, traded to another team. It's not the first time the Green Bay Packers have traded a Hall of Fame quarterback to another team. This is the kind of thing. This is the kind of thing that happens. And the last thing anybody wanted was for him to not be able to play the season with his new team. And just whether you have any ties to the Packers or the Jets or anything at all, as a football fan, the National Football League in 2023 will not be as good because Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a part of it. That is simply a fact. There was going to be a lot of excitement around his games with the Jets and how he was going to do, and some of his former teammates who were there to play with him, and and Matt LaFleur's best friend Robert Saleh is the head coach of the Jets, and there was a lot invested in this by a lot of people. People a lot more invested than any fan could ever be invested in what was going on, and it's just it's sad for football, quite frankly, that he's not going to be a part of the season. It's really too bad. I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like the surgery went well, and he's he's on the mend, and we'll see what happens from here. But the last thing that I was thinking about when I saw that injury Monday night was the whole draft pick scenario and whatever. Yeah. I understand fans are going to latch onto that, and it was fun. It was fun and playful to make jokes about 65% of the snaps and whatever, when it was sort of obvious. Well, of course he's going to play 65% of the snaps, and now that that's not going to happen, that's just a sad thing for football, in my opinion.
100%.
Alrighty, so we're going to transition from the former Packers quarterback to their current quarterback. We're going to start with our 3 stars and our underrated performer. So our first star was Jordan Love. He was 15 of 27, which is somewhat of a low completion percentage, which I don't think is indicative of his performance. But he had the 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. No fumbles, including snaps, which was something we discussed in the preseason, was the fumbling snaps. And he was great on 3rd and 4th down. So Jordan Love was our first star. Bryant has our second star.
Yeah, how can you not go with Aaron Jones? He absolutely flipped that game on its head in the second half. And one of the questions that Matt LaFleur was asked by, I believe it was Aaron Andrews or whoever's on the sideline, hey, why didn't Jones touch the ball? And Matt LaFleur, obviously he's much smarter than I. He's a coach in the NFL, but he's like, hey, we were trying to get in rhythm. We couldn't really get in rhythm. That took away touches. For me, I was like, Aaron Jones is your rhythm maker. So if he's going, this whole offense will go. Immediately they start getting him the ball, and the game is over by midway through the third quarter. Really towards the end of the third quarter, the game was over because Aaron Jones just completely took over the game. So he was a huge outlet for Jordan Love. I really love that throwback screen to him. That was a fun play. He's absolutely one of the stars of the game. So.
Simon's bummed that he can't be here, but he's in the comments, so he's with us in spirit.
Hi, Simon.
Jake has our third star.
Just want to give myself a little pat on the back because I mentioned him a few times last week. I was looking for him to have a big game, and he definitely responded. Maybe he heard me. I'm not sure. But Devontae Wyatt was an absolute monster last week. But who on the Packers front 7 was not destroying the Bears offensive line? I don't know if you saw.
You could throw the secondary in there too.
You could, but we're not very big on the PFF grades. We're more so with the routes and all that stuff. But the PFF grades for the Bears offensive line was pretty gross. It'll make you puke if you're a Bears fan. So go watch it, Bears fans. Anyways, Devontae Wyatt, 3 total tackles, 2 solo, a sack and a half, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. The man was a monster last week, and we're going to need that to continue if this defense is going to be top 5.
Was it something like 3.5 sacks between rookies and second-year players? Like, I can't remember what the stats were. It was insane. So,
say Lucas Van Ness, Brooks.
Yeah,
Wyatt,
1.5 from Wyatt. Yeah.
Yeah, 3.5.
3.5.
Pretty good production.
All right. Simon asked if the underrated performer was Darnell Savage. He was in contention, but to me, there was no other player that it could have been other than Anders Carlson. It had to be Anders Carlson for the underrated performer because of how much anxiety he induced into the fan base throughout the entire training camp because of just missing kicks in practice even. I mean, it wasn't even a big deal in any of the preseason games. He made all of his field goals. He missed, a couple extra points in the actual games. And then week 1, when it matters, he makes everything. 5 for 5 on extra points, and he made a 52-yard field goal that probably would have been good from 62. So those are our 3 stars and underrated performers. Mike, is there anything you want to chime in on those guys before we talk about the offense?
Well, I'd say with regard to Carlson, you gotta tip the cap to Daniel Whelan, because the hold on that 52-yard field goal that was tricky, and that was a high snap. He had to get that thing down, and as you said, Carlson just nailed that kick. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was kicked to the opposite end from our really crappy view in the Soldier Field press box, so I never really got a good look as to exactly how far it cleared the crossbar, but you could see when it left his foot. It was, as soon as it left his foot, it was like, okay, the distance is not an issue here. It's going to be just a matter of the accuracy, and he
said it would have been good from Lake Michigan. Yeah,
that was quite a kick. Yeah, definitely Savage, and not just being the leading tackler and whatnot, but I mean that he was dodging blocks by the perimeter guys for the Bears. I mean, there was from when I went through the film, a couple things that I highlighted. I mean, he made Bobby Tunyon completely whiff on a block. He made Chase Claypool completely whiff on a block, he was a problem. I thought Savage and Nixon were probably the 2 most instrumental guys in kind of wrecking that whole bubble screen game for the Bears, because they never got that bubble screen game going. And quite frankly, probably the best play the Bears had the entire preseason was the bubble screen to DJ Moore that he took like 80 yards for a touchdown. So I thought Savage and Nixon were really good with that. And then the other one I would say is just in terms of the open field tackling, one-on-one on the outside, Rasul Douglas had a real solid.
Yep. Oh, yes. Well, I'm happy you said that. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to get into guys like celebrations and stuff, his dancing and whatever. Like I'll leave the judgment of that to others. But I thought Douglas really brought something to this game, and the pass breakup in the end zone as well. Cole Kmet kind of engaged in some contact there in the end zone. Douglas didn't back down, and fortunately the refs let it go. Sometimes you will see that flagged, and would have given the Bears another shot on 1st and goal, but it's kind of contact both ways. They let it go, and Douglas broke up the pass. So I thought there were a lot of I guess I'd say a lot of maybe underrated performers in this one, particularly on the defensive side. But on the offensive side, to me, the biggest thing that stood out, aside from the statistics and whatnot, the biggest thing that stood out was the protection by the offensive line. The running game was definitely fits and starts and whatnot, and there were some issues there, but the protection up front I thought was outstanding. And it really helped Jordan Love settle in, on the road, a place where, the crowd can get kind of nasty and everything. And those guys up front, I mean, the Bears got the 1 sack, late in the first half. And that was really the only time they really even threaten to get to Jordan Love as far as what I remember.
Yep.
I think they had 2 pressures.
And then you could say that the sack that I feel like Jordan Love probably had a chance to escape or get rid of the ball. And you could almost say that one's a little bit on Love. So, yeah, I thought the offensive line played absolutely lights out.
Yep. Simon said Tom had a stellar game, and he also loves 69. David Bakhtiari, okay, we can let David Bakhtiari have a minute. Did you guys see everything that he did during this game? From laying down and waving to fans giving him the finger, and then later on himself giving the finger to the fans. That's
all-time photo. First of all-time photo of him just standing up there and just giving him the bird, like just giving him the business. I'm like, how do you not love that guy? Seriously.
He had this really weird, and I didn't understand what it was. He had this really weird celebration on the first touchdown to Dobbs. I don't know if you guys saw that. He laid down on his stomach in the end zone and was like kind of flapping one arm and leg like off to the side. And I didn't understand what it was. That was the end zone that was right below us, like where we were in the press box. So I happened to see it. I don't know if they showed it on TV or not. It was strange. It was weird. I don't know what that was all about. But that's kind of where it started, and then his day just got kind of stranger and stranger as the afternoon wore on in Chicago.
David Bakhtiari is my spirit animal.
Yeah, he's just living his best life, man.
Yeah, for real.
Greg said that he's excited for this Sunday because the Packers and Falcons match up well against each other. We're going to get to that. We're going to finish recapping first. So talking about the offense, Bryant, what stood out to you from the wide receivers development?
So I thought they played pretty well. You can tell they're young. They're still need to, there's going to be learning curves. And so they had like 8 receptions on 16 targets. So kind of mirrored Jordan Love's completion percentage. I thought overall they played pretty well, though. Not too many egregious drops. You can say, well, Jordan should have thrown the one ball to Jaden Reed a little more outside, or you could say it hit Jaden Reed in the chest, and you'd like to see him grab that ball, sure. But they had 8 receptions. Well, this is between first and second-year wide receivers. They had 8 receptions for 92 yards, the 2 touchdowns by Dobbs. But the rookies alone had 4 for 66. Dontavian Wicks had an interesting day. When you go back and watch some of the tape, I feel like he got open a lot. Which touchdown was it? It was one of the touchdowns. I think it was the first one to Dobbs. But if you look, I think it's Dontavian Wicks shooting wide open on a breaker to the left. So if Jordan Love would have looked that way, he probably would have had a touchdown too. I thought it was either Heath or Wicks. So I thought they played pretty well overall. Obviously, Dontavian Wicks had the 2 penalties, but you got to remember he missed a lot of the offseason as well. But I thought he led the team in snaps at wide receiver. I think he had like 32, and the next closest was 31.
He had 37.
Oh, was it 37? Okay.
37.
So I thought they played overall well. There's going to be some growing pains this year, but I thought they showed up, played well. I thought Jaden Reed had a couple big catches to support. He had a big catch on a 3rd down when the game was still kind of in balance. So overall, I thought they played pretty well.
So I feel somewhat similarly about the tight ends. Like looking at Luke Musgrave is obviously the most prominent one. He played 46 snaps. He had the 3 catches on 4 targets, 50 yards. One I'll say, Mike, I'd be interested to get your viewpoint on this, was the throw where Musgrave fell down and Love overthrew. The one that landed incomplete. Now, I've seen you get people like Colin Coward who are like, he overthrew a wide open guy on 3rd down. But I've also seen people bring up the fact that if Luke Musgrave just continues running that route vertically, he's walking in for a touchdown. So I'm curious, and I'm not saying we need to like point blame, but more so just kind of like what the context is on a play like that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there were a couple things going on there. I think one, I think Love thought he was going to take that route a little more vertical. I also thought that, Musgrave kind of got slowed up a little bit in terms of he was kind of looking one way and then turned and was looking the other way over the other shoulder. And I don't know, based on that route concept, if he's supposed to be looking, on over the shoulder toward the sideline or the shoulder toward the inside, but almost, in terms of, when you make that switch, I mean, that can be something that, that slows you down a little bit. So obviously the timing of that, was off. And, I think I thought what was more important was that and this is an example of how Love just doesn't let things bother him and, doesn't get flustered is it was either the next play or 2 plays after that was one of the big completions to Jaden Reed to keep that drive alive. I mean, you think, oh, geez, he just, missed a big play down the field and blew that. And it's like, well, no, a couple plays later, it's like he makes the conversion to a different receiver. They move the chains, keep the drive going. So, stuff like that. I mean, we saw on the other deep ball to Musgrave, he's a young tight end. He's going to get his footwork kind of screwed up once in a while. And fortunately he was able to make the catch on that one. Unfortunately for him, wasn't able to get in the end zone because I'm sure he would have loved to have scored his first NFL touchdown, on that play. But, that kind of goes to Brian's point about just the growing pains. I mean, that kind of stuff is going to happen. And it's not that it's an excuse, but what's more important is not necessarily that it happens, but then what happens on the next play or the next play after that. Like, how does the offense just kind of like regroup and not worry about missing an opportunity? What's the next opportunity in front of them that they need to cash in on? And I thought they did just fine, keeping their composure and nobody got too riled up over a missed opportunity.
And I think on the deeper one to Musgrave that he did catch, I think it came out that he said he cramped up during the play when he fell backwards or something like that. But it seemed like there's a lot of cramps. I'm hoping that might be a little bit of the case with Aaron Jones. We'll see, a little. I know it's his hamstring, but he's like giving, peace signs to that drone that was flying over his head and smiling and stuff. So it'd be, I bet you, if it's a playoff game, he'd be back in the game or something.
Yeah, best thing about that play, which to me was just watching AJ Dillon, how he first goes to maybe try to recover the fumble, but then he sees that Jordan Love is able to pick it up, and Dillon ends up throwing like 2 blocks in protection to help Love be able to get back in the pocket and set his feet and let that ball go. I mean,
Tucker Kraft had a huge block on that one too.
Yeah, I mean, just the wherewithal that those guys had to just kind of stick with the play, block your guy, and try to keep things clean for Jordan, so that he could try to make something happen out of that. And sure enough, it turned out to be a big play that set up a touchdown. So that was I thought that just that spoke to, I think, how mentally the guys were into the game, because they could they just okay, Jordan's going to pick up the ball. There's still things to execute here. Let's get the job done. And they did. It turned out to be a big play.
So between the two Musgrave passes, the deep ones, basically what it came down to for me, and this is what I put on my notes, is that he just needs polish. He's a rookie, and he didn't have a ton of playing time in college either, dealing with injuries. Yeah,
I mean, you're talking about a guy who played 2 games last year, not even 2 full games at that, because he got injured in the second one. So, I mean, he, this was literally his third, real game, in the last 2 years. So, I think polish is a good word for it. There's a lot to refine, about his game, and it's just, it's going to take time. It's going to take reps. It's going to take games. It might take a heck of a lot of games, for a guy who, enters the draft off a season where he only played in 2 contests. So, but I mean, the size, the speed, the talent, it's there. I mean, there's a reason he was drafted in the middle of the second round and was one of the top tight ends taken in the entire draft.
I think
so Ben Fennell and Mike Renner were both raving about him, not only about his passing game prowess, but also showing off being a willing blocker, which is something that comes back to, again, that deep pass to Luke Musgrave to tie into my next rookie tight end, which is Tucker Kraft. Jake and I actually broke this play down, not even looking at what happens between Jordan Love and Luke Musgrave, but Tucker Kraft carrying a defensive end all the way across the formation, and the only player that defensive end could get a hand on was A.J. Dillon. And Jordan Love was still 4 yards away from him, making a deep pass that ended up getting completed to the 5-yard line. I do like the way you put it, though, about looking at a missed opportunity and not being rattled by missing that opportunity, but looking for the next one. I think that's an awesome way to put that, and a great way to to coach that to the players. And then Ben Sims, the other rookie tight end, played 9 snaps, no targets, so not a whole lot. I would say the jury is still out on him. Greg, we're going to come back to your question when Bryant talks about the running game. I just want to throw on the pass distribution to marry the tight ends and the wide receivers together. 3 different players had a target on the first drive. Malik Heath was the 4th player to get a target on the second drive. Basically using downfield passes, wide receiver screens, running back screens, all of those things with Luke Musgrave. Toure and Dillon were targeted on the 4th drive. Just really good balance, I'll say, as far as the passing game distribution goes. 8 different players were targeted. Reed and Dobbs both had 5. Jones and Musgrave both had 4. Just on the down throw or the downfield aspect of it, overthrew Toure on 1, which Jake and I talked about. We think Christian Watson has a chance to catch that ball just by being faster and bigger. We talked about the Musgrave ones. And then the incomplete pass that he threw to Jaden Reed that got Jaden Reed kind of banged up, but he was fine and back in the game later on. That was really the only throw in the passing game that I was like, ooh, maybe Jordan shouldn't have made that throw. But, Mike, is there anything else you would say that, as far as the passing game goes, that maybe Jordan Love could have done better or shouldn't have done?
I mean, I think you pretty much covered it. As you guys said before too, I love the throwback screen. It was, I almost wonder if like they were talking about something in the locker room at halftime of, hey, all right, it's time to pull this one out and run it. Because just the fact that was called on the opening drive of the second half just makes me think that, there was maybe some halftime discussion about that. And I forget who it was. One of the guys had said, might even have been one of the offensive linemen, said that, they've had that play and they've tried it before, but it didn't really work. And so, nobody really knew exactly what it was. And this time, the execution of that was spot on. So, from everything from the play fake to the leaking of the lineman to the off balance, the off balance throw by Love to put the ball on target to Aaron Jones. Everything with that play went off without a hitch. And, those are the plays that they look easy when they're executed properly, but they aren't exactly easy to execute all the time. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
Go ahead.
I was
going to say, one other thing that we kind of talked about in the preseason and before the season was the middle of the field. And I think about 50% of the completion or 50% of the pass attempts were considered in the middle of the field. And that was just something we didn't see Aaron do much. So I thought it was great that we were using the whole field again. I think he was something like, I can't remember the number, 7 for 13 in the middle of the field with like 2 touchdowns or something. Because the one to Dobbs and Aaron Jones. So I thought that was great.
Good call. Jake, on that screen pass, what were the other 2 things that we talked about?
Well, the one thing that I think I'll never forget about that play was just Rasheed Walker just hustling down the field, man. He actually reported as an eligible receiver on this play. They talked about maybe doing this with all the tackle depth that the Packers have. So having big Rasheed Walker be able to, first of all, start on the left side of the play. The play went to the right, and he was the only lineman running down the field. And my big point when we broke this play down was, what if Jones had to break a tackle and there was another Bears player there and he had to block him and Jones ends up scoring a touchdown? Everybody's going to talk about Rasheed Walker hustling down the field. But I wanted to give love to that, even though that he didn't score, because he put that effort in. The other thing that me and Tyler love about that play is the double team on Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson had a rough day. Eddie Jackson had a real rough day on Sunday. He got bullied by 2 Packers wide receivers on this one. Who was it? Dobbs and Toure, I believe.
Toure, yep.
And earlier in the game, Love's first touchdown pass, actually, he absolutely got abused by Romeo Dobbs in a one-on-one situation and made him turn around. And me and my stepson this is a kid term now, but we were looking at the TV and we say, get that guy a map. That's a new thing that the kids say now. So somebody get Eddie Jackson a map. He's still looking for Romeo Dobbs.
Bryant, what about the offensive line and the running game?
So the running game, Spofford kind of hit it. They weren't as impressive in the running as they were in the passing game. And we've talked about that for the last few years. Like a lot of times they're a lot better. Like Myers, for example, he's a lot better, I believe, in the passing game. Same with Runyon, pass protection game than the running game. It's just Myers is weird. There was like a series of 2 runs. If Jones runs outside, and Jones, you can see Jones saying, "Hey, that's my bad. I should have went outside. It's a touchdown early in the game." I think it's the very next play that you see Myers completely whiff on a block on like a pull or something like that. So he had an up and down game in the run game. So the offensive line and with the running game, the running game wasn't that effective. It looked more effective than it was because of the numbers Jones put up. He did have, 9 carries for like 41 yards or something, was pretty good in the running game. But Dillon had a really rough game with like 13 carries for 19 yards. I have a little bounce back prediction for that, but later on in the show, just a little teaser there. But nice. So overall, the running game wasn't fantastic. The offensive line, fantastic in the passing game. They definitely need, it was a little spotty in the running game, but I think that's something they'll continue to clean up. And I think they're efficient enough to where, if Jones he was averaging just shy of, 5 yards a carry again, like 4.5 or whatever it was. Patrick Taylor, it was kind of late in the game. He had, 4 or 5 carries for 20 yards too. So he was above 4 yards a carry. So I thought they could have played better, but overall I thought they played all right for the running game.
I feel like a lot of their runs came in situations where like, all right, everybody knows we're here to kill clock. But yeah. Greg asked the question, if we were impressed with Dillon and is he worth a second contract?
I can't make that decision after one game.
It's literally the first game. That's where I come down on this. Like, it's a prove it year for AJ Dillon. It's not a prove it game. Now, I wouldn't say he's off to the best start, but there's 16 more games to play. And if Aaron Jones doesn't play this Sunday, AJ Dillon is going to have a massive opportunity to prove himself. So, Mike, I don't know if there's anything you think with AJ Dillon, if you were impressed, if he's worth that second contract, or if it's too soon to tell.
Well, I'm with you guys. I mean, we have to give AJ Dillon the full, the full year here, and I'm certainly curious to see. Not that I want Aaron Jones to miss the game on Sunday in Atlanta, but he is questionable. He hasn't practiced this week, and if he's not able to go on Sunday, we're certainly going to see a healthy dose of AJ Dillon. The other thing I will say about the run game, because I was talking to some guys and because I actually wrote my what I call my one last look column, which is kind of the last like preview piece that goes up on Saturdays on the website before the Sunday game, and I focused on the running game and kind of all right, they weren't thrilled with how they ran the ball, particularly after the first drive, and so I was asking a couple guys about that, and John Runyon told me something, interesting. He said what he felt is, because I asked about LaFleur's line on Monday in talking about the running game, is there were too many free hitters that the Bears had, when they were trying to run the ball. So I asked John about that. I said, okay, so, kind of what was going on there. And he, the way he described it to me is that what they went into the Chicago game with, they ran a lot of gap scheme runs more so than the inside and outside zone runs. But in terms of what they worked on in training camp, not to say that they didn't work on gap scheme, but they worked a lot more on the inside and outside zone stuff throughout training camp, because that's where a lot of the play action and all that comes off of. They didn't work on quite as much gap scheme, but then from a game plan perspective, the coaches thought the gap scheme was going to be the way to go for most of the runs against the Bears. And Runyon kind of said, he said, we just need more reps at that. We need to get that, we need to get that going and because they just hadn't worked on it enough yet. So hearing that, I mean, cause until, you really go and look at it and break it down as to, whether they're running zone runs or gap runs and stuff like that. Like, it's not something that struck me when I was watching it and even trying to review it. But then hearing that, it starts to make a little bit more sense as to what some of the struggles were. And those guys felt after the first drive, Aaron Jones had that. There were a couple of carries early. I think it was Jones and then Jaden Reed. Those first couple plays set up the 3rd and 13. They had gone backwards a little bit. Then they hit the 3rd and 13 to Romeo on the slant to keep that first drive going. And then, Jones ripped off, I think it was 7 yards and then 3 yards and then another 7 and maybe another 8 or something like that. It was a stretch of 4 carries where I think he totaled 25 yards and 4 carries. And Runyon told me, he says, yeah, we went to the sideline after that first drive and we're like, all right, this should be a really good day to run the ball. They were all feeling pretty good about it. And then, they didn't find that rhythm that they were hoping to find. And, they know it, they were happy with how they protected Jordan, but the guys up front, they felt that they definitely could have done better in the running game. And I asked LaFleur about it too, following up on the free hitter comment. And he also said, hey, it wasn't always just the offensive line. Some of those free hitters were because the perimeter guys, receivers, tight ends, maybe somebody missed a block there. And then that's how the Bears end up getting a free hitter. So, so you kind of add it all up and the Bears won a lot of those running plays, but what really kept the Packers going, I think, offensively was the pass protection, and so much was built off of Love being able to go through his progressions. LaFleur even saying on some of those 3rd downs, because they converted 9 of the first 14 3rd downs before, and then obviously there was the 1 4th down that turned into a touchdown, but they had 2 late misses on 3rd down, so they converted 9 of their first 14, and LaFleur even said they were able to, Love was even able to get to his 3rd or 4th option going through the progressions. And that's a credit to the protection that he could stand back there and scan the field and figure it out.
One thing I do want to say about Dylan real quick, we got to give him massive credit for that zone pitch or whatever they got, where he got smacked as soon as the ball was pitched to him. It was a loss, but if he doesn't, how many times do we see players fumble that ball right there? Somehow he doesn't fumble that ball. That was still, I think that was a 7-3 or 6-7 game or whatever when that happened. And for him to hold on to the ball there, I can't remember what, I think we ultimately punted, but either way, just to hold on to the ball there and not fumble it, that's a huge tipping point in the game, that early in the game. So kudos to him on holding on to that ball. So, because he got laid out. So,
all righty, Jake, what about the red zone?
Oh, man, what a breath of fresh air after the last couple seasons with the struggles in the red zone. Mike will agree because he watched them struggle. So to start the season 3 for 3 in the red zone, you literally cannot dream up a better scenario. Honestly, Mike keeps talking about the pass protection. You can't think of a better scenario for Jordan Love to come into with that kind of pass protection, right? And then we're going into this game, and we're like, dang, man, no Christian Watson, no field stretcher. Yeah, I agree. And also about that touchdown, the thing that I love about it is Love didn't give up on the play. He let the play develop, and actually on that play, who was it? It was Musgrave was running outside. You had Jones running outside, which takes the corner and the linebacker down, and that's where we talked earlier where Eddie Jackson gets one-on-one and absolutely gets destroyed by Romeo Doubs, and Love just steps up in the pocket, hangs in there because he trusts his guys to protect him. He trusts Doubs to get open, and he throws an absolute perfect dart. So that was the 8-yard touchdown pass that he threw. He threw another one where Romeo Doubs dogged a guy in the corner, and I was freaking out. I was like, oh, God. Everything's going our way. I feel like I need to go buy a lottery ticket right now because everything's just working. We also had a 1-yard touchdown run with Aaron Jones, so that was nice. They showed multiple ways to score the football in the red zone. The one thing that I think that I would love is for us to have a tight end presence in the red zone. I think that's the one thing missing from this offense. And the scary thing for the rest of the NFL, putting you all on notice right now, we went 3 for 3, right? That's 100%. There's so much growth possibility with this offense. It's about to be scary hours pretty soon here, I think. Love can run it. We could put 2 running backs on the field. Also, I do think that A.J. Dillon's worth a second contract. We nobody talks about pass protection. I think Aaron Jones is actually pretty good at pass protection. But just that alone is makes him worth it. And he's a pretty good receiving back.
Let me throw Christian Watson into that too. We didn't see him in the red zone at all.
Yeah,
obviously because he didn't play.
They got to have some gadget plays for Jaden Reed. They like to use him all over the field. They try to a nice little play with him where he actually got destroyed on a tackle too. He could have fumbled that too, being a rookie. His first game, fast game, getting smacked by another rookie, Bears rookie. But that rookie ended up getting his welcome to the NFL moment later in that game. But I thought they were great. They used a lot of different formations. They threw the ball. They ran the ball. I thought they were fantastic. And I just want to say, before that throw to Dubs, if Aaron Jones doesn't drop that screen, I think that's a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think that would have been Love's first touchdown. Hit him right in the chest. He turns around. He says a big fat guy trying to catch him, right? He has 3 linemen in front of him. I think he could have backpedaled into the end zone, to be honest with you. But
you're going to take a shot at Luke Musgrave like that?
Sorry. I think that would have been the first touchdown. I think they were A+ in my opinion. They were awesome.
I want to talk about that second Dobbs touchdown, and I'm not making the comparisons or anything, but I seen that exact same throw from one Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams against the Cowboys, and that tell me that Love didn't learn some stuff from that. Was an absolute perfect throw right over that helmet of the defender. Yeah. Like that was. And Dubs has such strong hands. He showed that as a rookie too, so it's just awesome to see. So
I think he showed that even in college.
That was my favorite thing about that second touchdown of Romeo's was his hands and seeing that. And I feel like that's an area, not to say that he didn't show some strong hands as a rookie, but I think that's a part of his. I think that's a part of his game that he already showed is on the upswing, is improving, and it can take receivers a while to develop that. Just thinking back recently, it felt like it took to maybe year 3 or even year 4 before we saw those kind of hands from a guy like MVS on a play like that. And here we're seeing it from Romeo in game 1 of year 2 in a really clutch moment. I thought that was really good to see.
I feel pretty similarly about third down offense as Jake does about the red zone offense. So looking at it on 3rd and 4th down, the Packers in the box score were 10 of 18 on 3rd and 4th down, but I'm going to take out the last 2, the 3rd and 8 and the 4th and 6th. They were running just to kill clock at the end with Sean Clifford in the game. So I'm going to call them 10 for 16, which is 62.5%. Last week I brought it up that I'm going to be looking for the Packers to be above 40. That's where the league average was last year. They were at 39.5. So I don't expect them to continue to convert at 62%, but I'd be super excited.
We're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah. Jordan Love on 3rd down, 8 for 10, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, 158.3 passer rating. That's declared as a perfect passer rating. The Packers scored all 3 times on 3rd down in the red zone, scored touchdowns.
I just want to add something real quick. And I know that we're not trying to make the comparisons, but when Rodgers was first coming up, where was he really good? He was really good on the money down. He was really good on 3rd down. And if Love has that same ability, oh boy, the rest of the North is in for another 15-year stretch of depression.
Slow down a little bit.
I know, but when Rodgers was first coming up, he was really good on 3rd downs.
But it's about, the game, the game hinges on situational football, right? It's what you do on 3rd downs. It's what you do in the red zone. It's what, do you get touchdowns or field goals? Can you convert enough on 3rd down to keep drives alive? The game is so situational, and if you win that situational game, versus your opponent, you're most likely going to win the game in general as well. So, the Packers were off the charts in terms of the situational execution in this game. And no, not every game is going to go like that, but it was certainly a great start.
Is there any sweeter sound than the Bears getting booed off their own field by the midway through the 3rd quarter?
Bro, they were booing in the 2nd quarter.
Yeah, if you're a Bears fan, I just have to say, I don't want to belabor the point, but that had to be just a disheartening, discouraging performance. I mean, seriously, you go 3-14 the year before. You have the number 1 draft pick. The front office decides, okay, we're putting everything behind this quarterback. We're going to trade the number 1 overall pick for a wide receiver and for a bunch of other draft assets. We're going to build this up. You've got your biggest rival coming in week 1. They're making a transition to a new quarterback and all that. And then that's the performance that you put out there. I mean, that the Bears were not good. And they've got, I wasn't expecting, the Bears to suddenly look like world beaters out there coming off a 3-14 season, but I thought the Bears were going to look better than that, and they didn't. They're a long, long ways away.
I won't lie. Yeah. I was legit on my hands and knees, like looking at my TV, laughing after the Quay Walker pick six. I was like, "There's no way this is happening in front of America right now." Like, I did not expect us to beat them like that. I thought maybe it would be a close game, like a low-scoring close game, like both quarterbacks struggle and all this stuff. But man, oh man, did we beat the brakes off them in the second half?
That was so satisfying.
Hey, can you throw Cody's comment real quick? I just want to mention one thing about the clock. Did you guys see the one play where Jordan Love was super calm? He was coming to the line. You can see, I can't remember exactly what happened on the play. The play clock was winding down. You see Matt LaFleur like freaking out, running up to the ref on the sideline. You see Jordan is just totally calm and collected, snaps the ball, and I think that's one of the plays he threw for like a 10 or 15-yard gain or whatever, and just moves along. But you see Matt like just losing his mind on getting ready to call timeout on the sideline, because this is one of the things that drove everyone crazy last year, or really the last several years with Aaron. But I thought we did a good job. But that play did make me crack up. I was laughing pretty good about it. So.
All righty, Brian, what did you see from special teams?
I mean, I thought we kind of talked about Carlson. He was already in our, underrated performer.
Yep.
I don't know that we could have asked for a really better performance. If you want to nitpick, some of the snaps were a little high. Like Mike said, on a couple of them were, really good job by Wheeling there holding. But then a couple of his punts, you'd like to see him keep out of the end zone. If you want to like nitpick, but the kicking was phenomenal. And maybe it's only people that are kind of sick like us that literally read every tweet during the spring training and everything, and we're following Carlson. Because every moderate Packers fans probably only seen Carlson making all his kicks during preseason games, field goals anyway, and like including 57-yarder. But to see him make all those kicks, some of them were like starting to he was putting a tail on some of the last extra points there, but either way they went through, right? They counted. So, but on the 52-yarder, it was dead down the middle, and it was probably good from 58 to 60 again. Jaden Reed looks like he's going to be a strong punt returner. I want to talk about that punt return by Jaden Reed real quick. I thought it played a huge part into kind of putting the game away, right? So we had just gone down, scored the touchdown out of the halftime break. The Bears go 3-and-out. They punt to Jaden Reed. He has a 42-yard returned, or whatever it was, to the Bears' 42-yard line. 4 plays later, Aaron Jones is trotting in the end zone, and you might as well put the game away right there. It was 24-6 or whatever. So just to see that punt return, and I mean, everyone thought he was going to bounce. He turned that corner straight up the sidelines, and he almost did that earlier on one of the catches he had. I thought there was one catch he had that he just barely stepped out of bounds that he probably left another 10, 15 yards on. He was kind of beating himself up about it.
Yeah,
too.
you know about it, yeah.
Just his speed and his turn and his explosiveness on the punt return was awesome to see. So I thought overall special teams played great. You're always going to have Nixon trying to take the ball out from like all the way in the back of the end zone. We'll see what happens. Young Waku has a huge leg, so we'll see if he's taking him out deep. But I love Nixon's energy. I think he returned one run to the 24-yard line, and he just got up all pumped up. Like, he didn't care that if he would have kneeled, it would have rolled into the 25. He was just happy to return the ball.
I know.
So I just love that guy. But overall, special teams, I thought they played pretty well.
Mike, you got any thoughts on the special teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jaden Reed is going to be a potentially big weapon on punt returns, and I mean, we watch every training camp practice and everything like that, and you don't really know what it's going to look like until it gets into live action. But the one thing that stood out from Jaden Reed from the day he showed up, when they were in OTAs without pads, all the way through training camp, all the padded practices, is when he was back there on punt returns, he looks so natural catching the ball. It's like he's been catching, punts since he was 4 years old or something. It looks completely second nature to him. It's reminiscent to me of watching Micah Hyde when he came in as a rookie in 2013. He was the same kind of thing. It's just some guys, everything just looks natural when they're catching the ball, even when the ball is wobbling or doesn't look perfect. And Jaden Reed falls into that category. And then to see him have the one return for 15 and the other one for 35 up the sideline. I think it was. I think you have to go back to somebody in Insider Inbox had sent in a message and pointed this out, that I think you have to go back to Phil Epps in 1982 to find the last time a Packers rookie had a punt return of at least 35 yards.
Oh, wow.
In like week one.
Okay. I was going to say I would have guessed Randall Cobb,
but yeah, sorry, that's like a week one
in
thing.
Week one.
Like season opener as a rookie,
Gotcha.
But no, I think Reed is going to be. I think Reed's going to be a factor on. He's going to be a factor on punt returns, all year. And I was impressed with the way Whelan was able to get the holds down for Carlson, and even the one that ended up going in the end zone. I mean, it's a 68-yard punt. It's still a 48-yard net. Trust me, Rich Bisaccia will take a 48-yard net on a punt any day of the week. That is not anything to. That's not anything to complain about there. So it was something else I was going to mention, and I forgot what it was now. In my what you might have missed piece that I post on Tuesdays with like the video clips and stuff like that, I thought it was really cool on that punt return. A couple things stood out. One, like Dallin Levitt completely flattened his guy, right just off to the side from where Reed caught the ball. Reed ended up running like the other direction, but if you actually look at the film, like Levitt completely flattened his guy on the other side. And then the key block to allow him to get up the sideline, kind of tiptoeing there for all the extra yards, of all guys, was actually Justin Hollins. And you're talking about whatever he is, like a 5th, 6-year veteran. He's out there on special teams, and he was actually the last guy coming back because he had rushed the punter all the way when the punter got the ball off. And so then he was kind of the last guy to come back and get involved in the blocking. He turned around, locked up the long snapper, and Jaden Reed runs right past the long snapper along the sideline for that extra 12 to 15 yards at the end of that. So just seeing a veteran guy like that, Justin Hollins, making a play like that on special teams, those are the kinds of things that get noticed, and I thought it was pretty cool to see.
I'm glad you noticed it and pointed it out.
Dude. That's a veteran pair of eyes that you got there, Mike. One day I hope to have those.
It helps to be able to look at the all 22 the day after the game. I'll say that. I fortunately have the access to that, and I was able to. I only have so much time on a Monday, and this week I actually focused on the defensive film and the special teams, which was why that was kind of my what you might have missed, all focused on that. And I didn't get as much time to really look at all the offensive stuff. So some of the stuff you guys have been pointing out with some of the offensive plays. And now I'm curious, like, I feel like I got to go find the time, maybe in my hotel room in Atlanta tomorrow night, I'll sit down and look at some of the offensive film and see what I missed.
You're going to love the Rasheed Walker hustle. I promise you that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I got to check that out.
They have the all 22 version on NFL Plus, which Tyler and I just got. So it's I was actually watching that when I was taking my notes. I was like, oh, I love this so much right now.
And Jake and I tried our hand at breaking some plays down this week, which
I think we did all right, man, for our first time. I think we're just getting our feet wet. We'll be all right.
Was it
Simon said he's got to go, so he said he'll see you later.
See you, Simon.
Hopefully he's available the next time we have you on. So
sure.
Was it Trevor Davis that had a punt return? Did he have a punt return for a touchdown in Atlanta? Maybe we can repeat that from Jaden Reed. Or maybe it was just a big punt return. I was at the game.
He had a good down in Atlanta. That was in the Georgia Dome actually. That was before Mercedes-Benz was built. But yeah, Trevor Davis had a nice punt return in Atlanta. He didn't score, but yeah, had a nice return there.
So we've kind of touched on some of the guys in the secondary already. One of them, Darnell Savage, his tackling was actually a really big part of this game. We kind of touched on Rasul Douglas's tackling. Really, Justin Fields, and this is part of play calling, but also part of credit to the Packers secondary. Justin Fields did not have very many downfield options. And then Savage, right before the end of the first quarter, sniffed out a big screen. That is one of the plays that Jake and I broke down. Was basically as soon as the running back starts motioning behind Fields, Savage breaks and takes off for the tackle, and I think he forced like a 6 or 7 yard loss on that play. Rasul Douglas, you mentioned already the pass breakup that he had on Cole Kmet. Mentioned Keyshawn Nixon making Chase Claypool a complete non-factor and tackling Darnell Mooney for a loss on a screen. And really the only thing I will say is in the second half, first is what I would say is the only miscommunication that I saw on a zone defense play that allowed Darnell Mooney to score the one touchdown was between Nixon and Douglas. That was really the only, I guess, if you want to use the word complaint, but I would say the miscommunication in the zone defense was really the only bad thing that I saw from the secondary. And then I just wanted to point out that later in the game, the Packers have a bunch of backups in. Like Carrington Valentine and Innis Gaines are playing defensive snaps in the red zone. And it's 1st and goal, and Justin Fields rolls out, and he still has nowhere to go with the ball. So I was impressed to see that. Mike, I don't know if there's anything you want to throw out there about the secondary because you did a little more defensive review.
Yeah, no, I mean, you pretty much covered it. Like I said before, I think, Nixon, there was obviously some kind of a breakdown there, whether it was Nixon or Douglas or with the responsibility. It was clearly a zone coverage on the touchdown to Mooney, but what I liked best about just the way the secondary as a whole played in this game is the way they attacked the line of scrimmage. And I think that was partly a game plan thing because the Bears do throw so many horizontal throws, the bubble screen game, the swing passes to the running backs out of the backfield. A lot of that offense is throwing the ball horizontally. So as a secondary, it doesn't do any good to be, 12, 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, like attack the line of scrimmage and play it that way. And I thought Nixon did that on the bubble screens. I thought Savage did that. Those guys were triggering and they were attacking when that ball went horizontally. And, you're not going to be able to play every game like that because that, like I say, that is a game plan thing. Not all offenses are going to throw the ball horizontally as much as the Bears do. So we'll see what happens this week with, Drake London and Kyle Pitts and, a completely different, cast of pass catchers for the Falcons and a different type of scheme. But those guys, talked all training camp about playing aggressively. And then this first game and with the way the Bears, throw the ball horizontally more so than vertically, I thought they took that aggression to the hilt.
So Jake, how did you feel about the defense against the run?
Oh man. So a little behind the scenes for you. We all drafted our topics, right? And the first two that popped in my head was red zone offense and rush defense. Those are the two consistent things that we really struggled with the last couple of years, right? We gave up a ton of yards before contact, a ton of yards after contact, and it was just kind of getting sickening. Same thing with the red zone offense. It's like, why are we running this? Why are we running this? Why are we doing this? So the run defense, oh, baby, chef's kiss. It was freaking tremendous. And Tyler's going to get a little bit more in depth with the tackling, but I just want to say to start this off, they had 5 plays of 0 or negative yards running the ball. That is an offense that runs the ball a ton. So if they don't get that going, they're not one-dimensional. They're 0-dimensional. They got nothing after the run game because you know what Justin Fields is going to do. He's going to tuck that thing. He's going to run. He made some tremendous plays. I love Justin Fields' athleticism. I love him as a person. Shout out to him, by the way, for giving up his ticket so Jordan Love's mom could be closer to watch his first start. That was really cool. And Tyler and I have said this a million times. He's a great guy. He's just not a great quarterback. I don't think that the offensive scheme is helping him. I hate when offenses stretch you horizontally, like Mike was just talking about. I don't think you're getting anywhere that way. I think a little bit of balance of vertical and horizontal is where you got to be, which the Packers do a ton of, obviously, too. But, yeah, that offense is not great. But with the run defense, I just want to say that LVN and Wyatt were standouts, in my opinion. They were consistently in the backfield. I'm going to get into the D-line a little bit more later. But I also thought that Hollins had great pursuit all day. He was down the line, hustling, making tackles on the backside. The backside defense, oh, my God, I cannot tell you how many times in my life I have yelled, backside, backside, backside at my goddamn television because nobody's covering backside. Also, you could see the effect of Rashawn Gary on the field immediately. That guy's heart beats for the entire team. When he gets on the field and he's just manhandling another human being, everybody else in the defense is like, yep, Rashawn's here. Guess I better step my game up. He's just one of those people to me, and you could tell that it goes through everybody. And then you have Jair chirping in everybody's ear. I love this defense. The potential is outstanding. Obviously, 8 first-round picks. You should be pretty good. But LVN, tremendous at setting an edge. Already, you could tell that he got that coached into him in college. In Iowa, as much as I like to dog them, they're kind of like the Chicago Bears to me in college football. They can coach some football over there, especially on defense. So LVN and Wyatt, for me, get the gold stars. Hollins was tremendous. And, you know, we already brought up Nixon. But, yeah, he was pretty good too. He's got the dog in him. And I'm a little disappointed, but I also feel good that Mike brought up that Rasul Douglas was the best tackler because, man, one-on-one, I don't think he missed one on Sunday.
No.
And the other thing, as far as tackling goes, I think they got miles better as the game went on. So I counted it up while I was rewatching the game. I counted 9 missed tackles in the first half, only 4 in the second half. So literally cut them in half the amount that they missed in the second half compared to the first half. So I thought that was great.
How many of those were probably attributed to? If it was any other quarterback, we probably have 8 sacks that game. So
I'm telling you, bro.
Back to kind of Justin Fields' athleticism. There's one towards the goal line where he turned around and still made it was Devontae Wyatt or whoever he got away with. I was like, how did he not get sacked? It's just so yeah. I love
when I watch Justin Fields in the pocket and the way he gets away. It's like it reminds me of the Karate Kid where they're trying to catch the flies with the chopstick. Seriously, like that's what you're just like, how in the world are you going to catch this guy? Like it looks impossible sometimes. And then the one time Rashawn Gary just absolutely buries Justin Fields, for a sack. It ends up doesn't count because they have 12 guys on the field. But credit to Gary, even with the flag flying and the Bears were trying to get a free play, he was having none of it. He's like, you guys aren't getting a free play. I'm getting a free shot at your quarterback.
I literally thought during that, I was like, I'll take that 5-yard penalty if we're just going to smoke your quarterback. So
that's what I said to Jake. I'm like, yes, you have the penalty and you know it's a penalty, but your quarterback just got leveled by Rashawn Gary. Like, if you're the Bears, does that even feel like a win to you to be moving 5 yards forward?
He's not a normal quarterback. He takes enough hits the way it is because he runs the ball so much. So, yikes.
It's like trying to sack Ben Roethlisberger, but he runs a 4.5. So
Ben Roethlisberger was a freaking brick, dude. He was tough to bring down.
All right, Jake. So looking at the defensive line and the pass rush, you kind of already touched on some of the guys, and we talked about some of the sacks by the rookies and stuff. But what stood out to you from the defensive line and the pass rush?
So I'm going to make a basketball reference. Sometimes they say that guys have a loud 20, right? Chris Middleton can have a loud 20 because he hits a bunch of threes, big-time shots. I feel like the defensive line, they had 6 tackles total together. The starting D-line, I'm talking. TJ Slayton, Kenny Clark, and Devontae Wyatt. I already told you his stats. They only had 6 tackles total. That was the loudest 6 tackles I think I've ever seen in my entire life because every damn snap they were in the backfield or hitting somebody or reading the play correctly. They were bothering Justin Fields all day. I thought the defensive line was tremendous. I love the attitude of TJ Slayton. Now, he's riding a fine line with as much talking as he's doing because he was talking a bunch. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but he was always pointing. I'm here. He was I'm sure you're saying other words that are not appropriate for kids to hear right now, but he was talking. So if he could stay on that line of attitude and using it in the correct way, I think TJ Slaton's going to be a tremendous nose tackle. I love Kenny Clark at D end. And if Devontae Wyatt, and I know this is a big if, and I hate doing ifs, but that's the business we're in, and that's sports, right? If Devontae Wyatt is the Devontae Wyatt we saw on Sunday, this defense is going to be so goddamn good, dude. Holy crap. You want me to go right into the pass rush right away?
Go right into it. Marry them together.
Oh, I got to tell you, Bryant stole my thunder a little bit, because the first line that I wrote in here is literally any other quarterback but Justin Fields and his amazing athletic ability, we might have 10 sacks. That is how much we were in the backfield. The Bears' offensive line is horrid. It is, I mean, Darnell Wright is very good. Pretty sad that he's already your clear-cut best offensive lineman.
He should not be playing guard either, by the way.
He's their best. It's not even close. And that is so bad. Their left tackle, Braxton Jones, garbage. I'm sorry. I have to say it. He's garbage. He's terrible.
He had 3 penalties.
He had 3 penalties, and he got his quarterback killed all day and his running backs. Although I do want to say, Tyler, that we didn't bring up, Justin Fields is going to get his wide receivers killed by all his high throws.
I definitely said that.
But I just remember you saying that to me the other day.
He's got to stop throwing balls high. He's going to get his receivers killed.
He is. So we ended up getting 4 sacks for a total of 27 yards. And here's the pass rush win rate according to PFF. This is stupid. Rashawn Gary, 44%. Carl Brooks, 15.8%. Devontae Wyatt, 13.6%. Kenny Clark, 12.5%. Yeah, Pro Bowler. Kenny Clark is that low on the list. That's not good news for you. Justin Hollins, 11.8%. And Wooden, 8.3%. That's all bad for you. That's all bad. All of that is bad. Also, Justin Fields was under pressure on 53% of his dropbacks.
That's ridiculous. He threw the ball 37 times.
53%, dude. Oh, my goodness. And then your first read's gone because Jair Alexander's covering him. And you know he's not looking at his second read. It's done. That game was horrible. I'm sorry, Chicago fans. Actually, I'm not sorry to the fans. I'm sorry to, like, the actual Bears players because they have to play there and deal with the terrible fans. But, you know, it is what it is.
Brian, what about the red zone defense?
So you and Mike kind of broke down the one play really well towards the end of the game. So that our defense was so good, they only had 2 trips to the red zone early, and the one was the Darnell Mooney touchdown pass from the 20. That was late in the game. I think we were up 24-6. It gave them a little bit of thunder, but we immediately, like, that bounce back drive was probably my favorite drive of the whole game. But the one I want to talk about is 7-3. Bears had a 1st and 8. Our 1st and goal from the 8-yard line. Then it became a 2nd and goal from the 4-yard line. And that's when LVN, I don't know if Justin Fields just didn't do his tape study and realize that LVN is a very fast individual. But that sack on that play was amazing. Like, to chase him down all the way to the sidelines and I mean, how many times have you seen someone get their arm around Justin, but he keeps running? Nope, LVN was not letting him go. He's slowing him right to the ground, made it like at the 11-yard line, and now they ended up kicking the field goal right to let us maintain the lead, and that played to Chicago never leading in the entire game, right? So that was the one big, like, red zone opportunity that Chicago had, and we shut them down.
Did you notice something about that play? Did you notice something about that play? Half of the offensive line was run blocking, and the other half was pass blocking.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Komet did not know what to do. Komet was like, what are we doing here? He was kind of just standing there in no man's land, and I just love watching LVN toss
the quarterback school guy breakdown or whatever. That play is pretty funny. But
I believe sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I think Justin Fields absolutely thought he was going to be able to run and turn the corner on LVN. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think he had any idea that Van Ness was going to be quick enough to wrap him up like that and not even give him a chance to get outside and to get around the corner there. I think he was completely blown away by the speed. Yeah.
So we're talking about Justin Fields being, a quarterback that's 220 or 30 pounds or whatever, 4'5". Well, LVN's 275 pounds. He's also runs a 4'5". So, yeah. So, unfortunately, he couldn't get away. Well, Fortunately for us, he could not get away. But that was the one big red zone opportunity
man.
that the Bears had in the game. It was a huge moment because if they score a touchdown there, it's 10-7. Which means we probably end up tied at halftime, and you never know what could go on with the game. So I thought that was it was nice to see. We'll see if we can, Atlanta now on the flip side had 3 red zone opportunities against Carolina, went 3 for 3. So all fed through the running back. So that'll be a big thing that we have to watch out for in this game.
All right, Brian or Jake, to wrap up the defense, how are they on third down?
Third down. Here we go. Third down. We gave up 3 of 13, which is like good, by the way. The one of the third downs that they picked up actually was a missed tackle by Jair Alexander. So it was like, but you can't complain that much. That was again where we're talking about Justin Fields' athleticism, and Mike made a great analogy of trying to sack him. It's tough, right? And he made a lot of great runs actually to salvage some plays. And then it's third down / fourth down defense. They were 1 of 2 on fourth down, but I'm not really counting that because I was kind of late in the game. But I just want to talk about the first third down that we faced that kind of set the tone for this game, in my opinion. And they tried to do a little sneak with Kmet up the middle, but they weren't having that. The defensive line got low. They won that. And Campbell, Quay, and Preston Smith noticed it almost immediately. They were moving before Kmet got there. And I thought that was tremendous by them to recognize that, stuff that play. Obviously, we stopped them on fourth down. That was their first fourth down. That they tried.
Who else? You know who else saw that and was moving before the snap? You had to watch the film really, really closely. TJ Slayton saw that.
I know, dude.
If you look at the film when Kmet comes across, Slayton's down in a 4-point stance. And you can see on the film, like his head comes up like this, like his eyes are up watching Kmet. And right before the snap, as Preston is crashing in from his right, TJ actually shifted a little bit, even further to his left to crash into the middle there as Walker and Campbell, like you said, were coming from second level. TJ Slayton saw it from the 4-point stance and actually shifted over and got right in the middle of that thing too. They were so ready for that. They were so ready for that. They saw it coming. They knew it, and they stuffed it.
Yeah, so I thought that was a big tone setter in this one. That first third down, and Mike, I'm close. I'm gonna have those eyes like you, man. I was close, but just tremendous stuff. And then obviously right away we go down, we score a touchdown, and that kind of is just like, okay, we're here to play. We're the better team. Let's do this thing, right? So I just wanted to say that first third down was beautiful to watch, and it was, again, a big tone setter.
So, Mike, is there anything else you wanted to say on the defense as far as the Bears game goes?
Yeah, I mean, I think to echo what you said, I mean, I thought that opening drive really set the tone. When you look at you look at what the defense and special teams did in this game, the Packers had 3 offensive possessions thanks to defense and special teams that started in plus territory, and they actually weren't able to take advantage of one of them after the fumble by Fields. But after the fourth down stop and after the 35-yard punt return, 2 drives that start in plus territory, those end up being 2 of your 4 touchdowns in the game. And when your defense and special teams give you the ball on the other side of the 50 3 times in one football game, you've got a really darn good chance to win the game. And the offense would have liked to have gone 3 for 3 in those situations, or even at least gotten a field goal off of the one instead of not getting anything. But the defense and special teams set up Jordan Love in really good position most of the day.
And that's not to toot my horn, but that was my key to my game when we did this last week, was points off turnovers. And exactly, if it wasn't, I think it was just probably, who knows, maybe it was Devondre Campbell or something, pulled someone off a pile and they pushed them those 15 yards back, but could have easily been 3 for 3 on turnovers, and that just completely swung the game.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking at coaching, and I'll say that one, like some of the personal fouls that the Packers had were just discipline things. Like the first one that we got was for retaliating at Lucas Patrick, who got in Jair's face after pushing Justin Fields out of bounds while he was still a good 2 yards inbounds. which it is what it is.
Hey, that's
Face
Luke. That's
mask?
Luke. That's Lucas, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I have to say, I love Lucas Patrick. And I don't blame him one bit for sticking up for his quarterback there. It's week 1. Your rival is here. I mean, Lucas is going to do that. And yeah, it turned into a little bit of a melee and whatever, but that is totally Lucas Patrick to a T. Like, and if he's on your side, you want him sticking up for your quarterback like that too, whether the hit was legal or illegal. And it was clearly legal. He was in bounds, but Lucas is a good dude. You want him doing that if he's on your team.
Yeah. So the Packers, I think it was Slayton that got a retaliatory penalty for getting back up into his face after that. The other one, a face mask, those happen. You're never going to be able to completely avoid those for an entire season. And then the Rudy Ford one, just not a good choice. He was mad because he got run over by Roshan Johnson and just kind of let the frustration get to him. And then the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty after the pick 6, that one I kind of chalk up to just the emotions of week 1 and just kind of a high level situation. So overall, I think some of them were disciplinary things where it's just like, hey, like you just can't do that. And then some of them are just kind of not going to be avoided. As far as consistency goes, I just think we need more games before I can really say that they're consistently doing anything. 2 things in the second half that I saw get way better. 1 I already mentioned was tackling, and then 2 was the offensive balance. We already talked about Aaron Jones getting way more touches in the second half. As far as coaching goes, the only complaint that I really have was almost letting the time run out in the first half after Love got sacked. And then kind of touched on this already too, the Packers being much closer to the line of scrimmage against wide receivers, and DJ Moore being an absolute non-factor after his first 2 catches. As far as time of possession goes, it was almost perfectly even. I will say the Bears did a better job of sustaining drives in the first half than the Packers did. The Packers had back-to-back 3-and-outs at one point. And then the last thing that I'll say on the coaching is I think Joe Barry did a very good job of balancing zone and man defense, and the only touchdown that came off of the zone defense was a miscommunication. So, Mike, is there anything you want to say about anything coaching related or time of possession related before we switch into the preview?
Yeah, I mean, LaFleur took the blame, for the end of the first half after the sack. He said he didn't get a play into Love soon enough so that they could that they could try to keep rolling and get a little bit closer before they had to use that last time out. And I thought it was kind of funny because he said Jordan actually let him kind of have it at halftime, obviously not out on the field in front of the cameras, but Jordan wasn't happy that that he didn't get to run another play after that sack, and LaFleur told him, he's like, yeah, that's my bad, you're right, and so they sorted that one out. The other thing you mentioned DJ Moore being a non-factor. I sit up with Wes in the press box next to me, and he pointed out to me a couple of times in the fourth quarter, and it wasn't on camera on the TV, but we were watching DJ Moore after a couple plays. Like his body language was absolutely terrible. Like he was so frustrated. There were a couple plays in the fourth quarter where he felt he had gotten free, and then Fields decided to scramble and didn't throw the ball, and there was frustration and bad body language going on from the Bears' new number 1 receiver. So that'll just be something to pay attention to as the season goes along, because he's got a lot of high hopes for what he wants to do there, and the Bears have a lot of high hopes for him. But it was not a good start for DJ Moore.
That's an expensive crybaby, in my opinion.
So, Mike, going forward, just talking about Jordan Love specifically, is there anything from week 1 to week 2 as we transition into talking about the Falcons? Is there anything from Jordan Love's development that you're really looking for?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was asked this, this week in the Insider Inbox column too, and I don't dive too much into the weeds and anything. I mean, I think ultimately what's going to decide, kind of where Jordan Love is or where he gets to in his development, in this first year is what happens in what happens in crunch time when some of these games come down to the last, 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter and whatnot. Obviously, this first game was not one of those. The only kind of taste of that, in the urgency type situation that we saw was the drive at the end of the first half. And I thought that was a really good example of what can happen to a young quarterback, where on one play he's converting a big third down to Jaden Reed to keep that drive alive and to put him in field goal range and give him a chance to get points before half. Then a couple plays later, he's taken a sack that you can't take in that situation, and if that kind of stuff happens in a 2-minute drill at the end of a game, the one play, that big third down conversion can win a game. Taking that sack, that could lose a game, and so we just have to see. There are going to be, I don't know when it's going to happen. Nobody knows when it's going to be. There are going to be a handful of games that are going to come down to the ball in Jordan Love's hands, whether trailing or tied or whatever the situation might be, in the last 5 minutes of a game, where he's going to have to get something done, with the offense as a whole in order for the Packers to win the game, come out victorious. And to me, that's what I'm going to be watching, because ultimately over time, that's what separates, the good quarterbacks and the guys with all the stats and everything from the great ones who get wins, is what you do when the game is on the line. And in this league, those 5 or 6 games every year that come down to the last 5 minutes, those are the games that decide whether you end up, 11-6 or 6-11. Because there isn't that much difference in this league between those teams. And usually it comes down to, what is this team's record, in crunch time, that usually determines what your record is for the season.
That's fair.
You just tossed out 11-6 and 6-11. I think it's totally within the realm of possibility that all 4 teams in the NFC North finish within those 5 games.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. It wouldn't. In some ways, it wouldn't surprise me if nobody in the NFC North actually gets to 11 wins. But by the same token, it would not surprise me at all if if nobody in the NFC North is in that 3-14, 4-13 territory where the Bears were last year. I think I agree with you. I think there could be some clubs that are tightly bunched when this thing is all said and done.
Jake, Bryant, is there anything you want to add to that as far as Jordan Love is concerned?
I think kind of talking about, you jumping into my preview a little bit, but just I think Jordan Love, this might be one of those games where Jordan Love has a chance towards the end of the game to either win it or, possibly make a mistake. So I look forward to this game because I think it's going to be a bigger challenge for sure.
I'm a big third down guy. I'm a big red zone guy. So those are the areas I'm going to be watching Jordan Love closely. Obviously, I think that first and second down matter too, but third downs are big to me. So third down and red zone, man, we're going to have to see what Love has.
It's really going to be, as far as the offense is concerned, I really want to see more of the same in a lot of aspects, like the passing game distribution, more of the same.
Yep.
Like just spread it out. The rookie tight ends, I really just want to see Luke Musgrave running more polished routes. I'd like to see Tucker Kraft get a few more snaps. He only had 13 snaps in week 1. I'd like to see him get a few more. Third downs, do the same thing. Carolina, as bad as they looked last week as a football team, they looked bad, but they still converted 5 of 14 on third down, which doesn't sound great when you say 5 of 14, but it's 36%. The Packers were 39.5 last year, and I just want them to be over 40, so it's not far off. So if Carolina and their horrible football team can manage 5 first down conversions, I think the Packers will be just fine. Jake, is there anything else you're looking for from the offense?
Yeah, well, sorry. For one thing, too, with Carolina, kind of like looking – I know you said you want to see a lot of the same. I want to see a lot of the same in the passing game, but I do – Atlanta won. The only shining spot for Carolina was their run game. I think both running backs average like almost 5 yards a carry. So I'll be looking like whether it is Aaron Jones, Wilson, and AJ Dillon. You know what I mean? I want to. We need to run the ball a little more on first or second down. Get that rolling.
I mean, the run game is important in the Matt LaFleur offense, so I agree with you there. For me, what I'm looking for from the offense, like I said, like you said, man, just spread the love. And I'm not going to be the first one to say that, but I just wanted to.
The love
wanted to
bombs
get,
are going to fly fast and loose. It's going to happen.
yeah, I had to get one out there. So spread the love, get everybody involved, keep everybody happy. If Aaron Jones is on the field, probably look for Aaron Jones because he's really good, and for some reason he's always underrated, which makes zero sense to me. Same thing with Drew Holiday on the Bucks. Why is he always underrated? I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a Wisconsin thing, I guess. But get Aaron Jones the ball, stay on time with your passing, and I think we're going to be okay. I'm really not that worried about this game. I don't think Atlanta's ready.
Mike, what are you looking for the Packers offense against the Falcons defense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys as far as the running game, and with the running game not going as well as they wanted it to against the Bears, and when you look at Week 1, that Falcons Panthers game, Panthers rushed for 154 yards and against Atlanta, and only 17 of those were the quarterback, the rookie quarterback Bryce Young running around and scrambling. I mean, the two backs for Carolina, Sanders and Hubbard, they averaged 5 yards a crack all game long, and quite frankly, Carolina was just undone by the turnovers. They lost the turnover battle 3-0 and found themselves down 17-10. Because of those 3 turnovers before Atlanta put the game away with another touchdown late. So looking at those numbers, I gotta believe the Packers should be able to run the ball on these guys, and then if they can run the ball, the play action that they can execute off of it. I mean, there's no better way, especially on the road, trying to take a crowd, indoors in a dome, as loud as it's going to be. There's going to be a lot of excitement for the Falcons, with what they hope to be building down there. There's no better way to take a crowd out of a game than to be able to run the ball and then hit play action passes off of that, because the fans sit there and they start seeing, these guys look pretty efficient. Like, things look sharp. I mean, there's nothing that looks sharper in a football game than a well-executed play action pass. And play action passes look sharp when the running game is working, so that the play action is actually effective. And I think that's what this game comes down to for the Packers being efficient on offense.
I think we need
to sucker for play action. There's if you watched our show before, there's no sugarcoating it. I love play action.
We just need to make sure we know where Jesse Bates is at pretty much all times, and I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he got all 3 of the turnovers. The 3-0 in the turnovers was Jesse Bates 3 and Carolina 0. I mean, he had 2 interceptions, had a forced fumble. Atlanta's first 17 points in the game were all off of those 3 turnovers. I mean, Jesse Bates is the guy. Jesse Bates is the guy who won that game for the Falcons. I mean, that big free agent contract they gave him, to take him away from Cincinnati, they feel like, every dime of that was well spent at this point after one game, the way he, the debut that he had for the Falcons last week.
Kind of wish he was wearing green and gold, not going to lie.
He's pretty good.
All right, so switching to the defense, for the secondary and the tackling, as far as they go, just don't get beat downfield. Jake and I talked about this in some of the breakdowns we did. The Packers did a really great job of rallying to the ball. And this is going to be, as far as downfield goes, Drake London and Kyle Pitts are really their only weapons as far as I'll say as downfield goes. Drake London had 1 target last week. And then as far as tackling goes, this factors into where the running backs come in. But they just need to be the team they were in the second half. Only the 4 missed tackles instead of 9 in the first half. But looking at it, only 4 targets and 2 receptions were by Pitts and London. But 9 of 9 to Algier and Bijan Robinson. So those 2 are going to be heavily featured, and the tackling in the secondary needs to keep a lid on that. And they need to be sure tackling, because if you let those guys break tackles, this game could get rough. So just sure tackling and just really knowing and having an awareness of where they are at all times. So Jake, Bryant, Mike, anything you guys are looking for from the Packers defense?
I think you kind of hit that nail on the head. A lot of people are talking about, Desmond Ritter, 6 games, never throwing an interception. He also only has 3 touchdown passes in 6 games. He also doesn't, I think, 2 out of 6 games he's eclipsed 200 yards. So I think this is one of those games again. He's efficient, don't get me wrong. He high completion percentage. This is one of those games again that it's like make their quarterback prove they can beat you.
Desmond Ritter is what Colin Cowherd thinks Jordan Love is.
Yeah. So it's going to be my matchup is the linebackers versus Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. If they can slow them down, I don't know if you guys seen that move. I'm sure you did. The move that Bijan Robinson scored a touchdown. That was nasty, right?
Chris
So so really, it's going to come down to really, can we slow down Tyler Algier? Let's. Desmond Ritter hasn't proved. He had 1 good game where he had 2 touchdowns. He's like, I don't want to jump into my Simon Says, but
easy.
Yeah. I feel like we need to make him beat us. I feel like you need to play the wide receivers up close to the line of scrimmage, kind of like we did. And maybe a lot of man to man to load the box a little more and just make him prove that he's going to beat us.
Mike, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think defensively this game comes down to the tackling, because Robinson is going to make guys miss. Kyle Pitts is not easy to bring down. If he gets loose downfield at all. Cordarrelle Patterson, if he's involved, in the running game, he is not an easy guy to tackle. And they're going to make some guys miss. There are going to be missed tackles in this game. I think what it comes down to is, do you have enough guys rallying to the ball to where a missed tackle, doesn't become a 25 or 30, rupture into a big gain? Is there another guy there or another couple of guys there? So if somebody misses the tackle, it just results in a few extra yards. Because these guys, they're going to make guys miss. That's what makes them good. That's and certainly with Robinson, it's how he's going to make his name in the NFL is by being a slick, slippery guy that is tough to bring down. The question is, when he makes you miss, how big of a play is it going to be? How big of a play are you giving up when that happens? And if the Packers can limit the damage when those guys are able to make somebody miss, then I think the defense will be just fine.
We have not been shy about it, that we all are in consensus agreement that Bijan Robinson is going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
I mean, in another era that puts more value on running backs, I mean, that guy's the number 1 pick in the draft,
For sure.
I mean, he is. It just happens to be 2023 and the NFL game isn't played the way it used to be played. But that guy is the number 1 overall pick if he's part of a different generation.
All right, let me go now. Now I know I'm going to sound smart, so I'm going to sound like Mike right now. So, run defense, I legitimately have written down, continue to gang tackle, because I thought that was an underrated part in the Bears game. Because it was. A lot of people were rallying to the football, not allowing big plays. That's what helped with not missing tackles, to Tyler's point. So for third down, obviously third downs matter. I've hammered this home. Third downs are so vital. You have a quarterback that threw for 115 freaking yards last week, and he won a football game. Put him in some down and distance situations, okay? Let's see if he can win. And then for pass rush, I have the pressure numbers were insane against the Bears. Obviously, I went over those. To be able to mimic that every week would be insane. We would probably go undefeated if everybody was getting to the quarterback at that clip. But getting a Gary that's going to get more healthy, these young rookies are going to get more consistent with it. I think, keep the pass rush numbers up, get after a young quarterback that obviously hasn't turned the ball over yet. He's going to get one this week. And, with Jordan Love, like I said, spread the love. But defense, just play fast, play physical. That's what they did last week. That's what I'm looking for again.
He took 4 sacks last week, and I don't think he'll be able to escape like Justin Fields. So I think maybe a few forced fumbles. Maybe Gary will get us first, strip sack fumble of the season.
Guys, I try to plan my stuff. You guys are jumping all over my page here, and I don't know what to say now.
So
I'm with you guys. You got to make Desmond Ridder beat you. I actually made the comment in the Insider Inbox column this morning. I mean, he's a young, talented quarterback, and maybe he's good enough to beat the Packers. But you got to find out if he's good enough to beat you or not. You know, you can't let their strength, which is their running game and those playmakers. You can't let their strength beat you. If they're going to beat you, you got to make somebody else do it. And we'll see if I think the Packers are going to make Ridder throw the ball certainly more than he did last week. And we'll see what happens.
So this is like one of the next things is, Mike, you brought this up with Carolina's running game, but the Panthers actually had the ball for over 34 minutes of the game last week.
They outgained them by 60 yards. The total yards were 281 to 221. I mean, they outgained them by 60 yards. It was really the turnovers that just did them in.
Yeah. So as far as time of possession goes, I'm just looking for the Packers to sustain drives a little bit better, continue spreading the ball. And then as far as coaching goes, I really have no complaints because everything they struggled with in the first half was better in the second half. So I really don't have any complaints about the coaching as far as last week to this week goes. Bryant, I don't know if there's anything specific you're looking for on special teams. You kind of mentioned the punting a little bit. But
the one thing I'm looking for is, and Mike kind of talked about it, Cordell Patterson is going to play this game. Can Carlson kick the ball out of the end zone? I'm hoping that he does. That's kind of like I expect them to do that to Keyshawn Nixon. Yep. We should try to do the same to Patterson because they're both can literally one of the quickest ways to flip momentum in game is a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown. So literally just try to keep the ball away out of his hands and on special teams.
And Patterson will bring it out from 9 yards deep too. Like if he can catch it before it goes out of bounds, he's coming. So
if he can get it through, hopefully the conditions will be perfect during a dome. Carlson should have a big enough leg to kick that thing out of the end zone if he needs. So hopefully that's what he does. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I expect them to do the same thing to Nixon. So.
All right, Brian, you kind of gave your matchup already a little bit, so I'll let you just refresh it.
Yeah, just really the linebackers versus Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell's speed and their coverage abilities really against Bijan and Tyler Algier. If we let them, and potentially Cordell Patterson, if we let them run wild, that we're going to be in for a big brawl. If we stymie their run game, I think we could pull away on this one a little bit. Granted that we're playing a much better defense than we did last week, and I think this would be a much tougher task. But if we can stymie the run game, I'd like our chances. Jason, or not even stymie, just slow it down. Don't let that be why they beat us.
So my key to the game last week was limiting and isolating big plays, and that totally applies here. So it's not shocking, but I went a little bit more specific. And mine is strictly just Quay Walker versus Bijan Robinson. Just those two guys specifically. It's going to be interesting to see how they interact. Not like person to person, because I mean it would be interesting, but like how they interact on the football field. I'm actually really interested to see because they're both quick. So I'm really excited to see. It's just going to be good for football. Like Jake and I talk about this with the Brewers all the time, that we're watching two head-to-heads that are just make for great baseball. Like this is just going to be a great football game to watch. So I'm just excited about that as a football fan. But Jake, what's the matchup that you're watching?
So we talked about Jesse Bates earlier. Like I said, you guys were jumping all over my paper here. But I got Jordan Love versus Jesse Bates. Mike brought it up that he forced all 3 turnovers last week. And Jordan Love's he actually commented on it. He talked about Jesse Bates always knowing where number 3 is at all times. He looks weird wearing number 3, by the way. But always knowing where he is, just like his name, he's very good at baiting quarterbacks in the turnovers. Love cannot be afraid to throw the ball over the middle. Do not let Jesse Bates intimidate you. Keep throwing that ball over the middle. Establish the run game, and don't let him ruin the game.
Mike, is there any specific matchup that you're looking forward to this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys on yours. I mean, as far as the linebackers against Robinson, Jesse Bates against Jordan Love. The other one, I guess, I don't even know exactly how to frame it as a specific matchup, but I'm very curious as to how the Packers are going to go about dealing with Kyle Pitts. Like, how are they? Is it going to be Walker? Is it going to be Campbell? Is it going to be a bracket type of thing where maybe Savage or Ford is involved? On the back end, We saw last week, Cole Kmet ended up one-on-one in the end zone with Rasul Douglas, so, I mean, how are the Packers going to defend Kyle Pitts? I think becomes an interesting question, because I honestly just don't know what the answer is.
I think this is a huge opportunity for Savage to stack to success. He's going to be a big piece in this game, both in the running game and against Kyle Pitts, because those are really their strengths, right? They're in the middle, those two. London's good, but let's be honest, if Jaws on him most of the game, he's going to be should be shut down for most of the game. So yeah, I think if Savage can stack success here, this would be a huge opportunity for him.
So this guy already came up, but my X factor for the game is Jordan Love against the Falcons secondary that forced a bunch of turnovers. So not a super eye-opening pick, but Bryant, who's an X factor for you this week?
So mine's actually a rookie. It's Jaden Reed. I think one of the areas that we're going to see that we're going to try to attack, especially on third down and stuff, is out of the slot in the middle of the field, probably behind the linebackers before where Jesse Bates is going to be. I won't be surprised if they're trying to open up the middle of the field quite a bit with maybe, Musgrave running some seam routes or something like that to, pull Jesse Bates away a little bit. I think you could see a lot of those short hitters to Jaden Reed, kind of like similar to the touchdown you've seen Christian Watson get, where he's just running along those against the Eagles last year, running along the, couple yards past the line of scrimmage just to get him the ball in space. So I'm Jaden Reed out of the slot is my X factor this week.
Jake, what about you?
It's an interesting one. So I went Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker versus Kyle Pitts, actually. They have the two guys that are just unguardable, basically, when they're on fire. Kyle Pitts. If that guy's feeling it and you're throwing the ball where you can catch it, you're not stopping him. It just is what it is. He's 6'6", and he runs a 4.4. You're not stopping him. Bijan Robinson's middle name is actually Breaking Tackles. Bijan Breaking Tackles Robinson is his name. I looked it up on Google, so it's true.
Wikipedia wouldn't lie to you.
Yeah, Wikipedia never lies. But you got to stop one of them, right? So I'm choosing to stop Kyle Pitts. I think that would be the easier one to stop. You can rush the quarterback, and hopefully that Desmond Ridder is not the guy that we're hoping that the Falcons are hoping that he is. So Campbell and Quay got to control that middle of the field, and we'll just let Bijan get what he's going to get. It's like a basketball game, right? Another basketball reference for you. There's some guys in the NBA, they're just going to get what they get. Curry's going to score 30 on you if he wants to score 30. LeBron's going to score 40 if he wants to score 40. Giannis is scoring 40 if he wants to. Bijan Robinson is going to touch the damn ball. He's going to get yards. Stop Kyle Pitts.
Mike, is there one player that you really think kind of hinges an X factor on?
I would say my X factor for this game is whoever can intercept Desmond Ridder for the first time in the NFL. I think the Packers have to get rid of that 0 in Ridder's interception column. I'm not sure who it's going to be. Maybe it's Ja, maybe it's Rasul, maybe it's Savage, maybe it's maybe Quay Walker, gets an interception for a second week in a row, but I think if the Packers get Ridder to throw that first NFL interception, I really like their chances.
Yeah, definitely love that. Jason got a little bit ahead of us in the comments by saying a 30-13 final score, but here at Wisco Fanatics, we do 2 score predictions every week. We do one from the head and one from the heart. The head being the more analytical score prediction, and then the heart being the more optimistic, if everything goes right, score prediction. So, Michael, let you go first. If you had to make a score prediction from the head, what would you give?
From the head, I'm going to say 23-20 Packers.
Ooh, close game. Mine is similarly close. Not super close, but I went 24-17 from the head. Give Jake a second to write them down, and then Jake can give us his.
So, from the head, I went 31-24 Green Bay.
Oh, wow.
A little higher scoring. All right. Bryant, what about you?
I went 20-17 the Packers.
Man, we're all really close. All right.
And that's why I said I think this might be a game where Jordan Love, has the ball at the end of the game, get us into field goal range, and have a chance to win it.
So my score prediction from the heart is actually really close to Jason's, but Mike, I'll let you give one first. Score prediction from the heart. If everything goes well, you're most optimistic.
I'm going to go with 27-16 Green Bay.
No way. That is exactly mine.
So
That's
Jason's
hilarious.
30-13 in the comments. Mine is 30-14.
30-14.
So guessing by Brian's reaction, I'm guessing yours is the same.
He Bryanted me. I do that to Simon all the time. I say his or Jake's exactly. You sniped it. I was like, 16 is a really good. You don't see that very often. I was like, but I feel like we could win by 10. But they have a really good kicker, so I was like, all right, 27-16. So that's hilarious. Good call.
That's awesome. All right, Jake, give us your heart projection to round it out.
Here's we're gonna get a couple turnovers. Foreshadow there for you, but 34-10.
Let me do my Simon Says first.
Hey, that's everything going right. That's everything going right. So everything in my heart going right. We're getting turnovers. We're running the ball. We're passing the ball. They're not doing any of that stuff. So 34-10.
All right. So our last segment before we sign off is our Simon Says. Simon isn't here with us this week. He's doing his tactical moose retreat for the military in Alaska, as we like to say. So we have Mike. So we're going to do Spofford Says this week.
Yes.
So we do basically one bold prediction for each game, one on offense, one on defense. So Mike, if you just give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Bryant wants to go first, so I'll let you fire away.
Right. So here's my defensive one. Desmond Ridder has played 5 games in the NFL and has never thrown an interception. Green Bay will pick off Ridder twice and hand him his first home loss ever in college or the pros.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
All right, likes it. All right, Jake, give us your defensive one.
You copy me with the 2 interceptions, but I wrote down who's going to get them. So
okay,
I say we hold them to under 230 yards. We're going to get 2 interceptions. Jair gets the first. Darnell Savage gets the second.
But yeah, I like the whole 2 interception thing. I'm on board. I'm on board with the 2 interceptions. I think the 230 yards, that seems a little ambitious to me, but hey, you know.
So
I think the turnovers could be a big factor here if the Packers can get a couple.
So mine doesn't go as far as the turnovers, but it does go as far as limiting the passing offense. My defensive, Simon Says, or Spofford Says this week, 0 passing touchdowns for the Falcons.
Ooh.
I can't agree with that one.
Oh, all right.
I think he's gonna get one. I think it's probably gonna go to Pitts, but
I think it's gonna get
for those who are interested in any like fantasy predictions or whatever. I don't play football, but
that means take Bijan out of your lineup if you have him.
No, he's staying. I picked him early.
All right, Brian, let's do our offensive ones and we'll get out of here.
Okay, so this one kind of hinges on Aaron Jones a little bit, but I put that A.J. Dillon will bounce back in a huge way, posting his best game of his career with 125 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh my!
That's God. 1 more yard than he rushed for against Tennessee.
Say best touchdowns. Wow, best game of his career. I think that's a little too ambitious. Sorry,
bro. We're winning 34-10.
I'm looking. I mean, I'm definitely looking for A.J. Dillon to have a good bounce back game. I think the Packers can run the ball in this game, but man, to go from 15 yards or whatever he had to 125, I think that's asking a lot.
Think about me on Sunday, okay?
All right, Jake, give us your offensive one.
All right, you ready for this one? I'm ready for your thumbs down. Jordan Love, first career 300-yard passing game.
Oh, wow.
Is that what you like that one? All right. I knew it.
No.
Don't worry. I think we got like a total of handful of these right last year. So
I think it's too much to ask on the road in a dome, the noise, how it could affect the offense and stuff. I just think it's not to say that I'm saying Jordan Love's going to have a bad game, but I think 300 yards passing, that's a little bit too much to ask. Although it'll be interesting because whenever Jordan Love does get his first 300-yard game, it will be the first 300-yard passing game by a Packer quarterback since 2021 because the Packers didn't even have a 300-yard game last year. Rodgers didn't have one in 2022.
Rodgers didn't have, I think, a single game where it was 240 yards and 3 touchdowns last year, and Jordan Love did that in his first game, so that was nice to see.
I'll say as far as if Christian Watson plays and they get like an 80-yard touchdown, like then I could see your 300. but they need a super long touchdown to get there.
There's an avenue.
Good to hear that Watson was actually back at practice on a limited basis today. I mean, I know that's only one practice in 2 weeks here, but at least he got back on the practice field, so that things are looking up there. That's
would you use him as almost like a distraction type player? Like, would you put him out there for 10, 15 snaps and just send him on go routes just to make the defense pay attention to him?
That's an interesting thought, because I mean, certainly, if he is able to play, it's not like he's going to suddenly play 50 snaps on that hamstring. So that's a curious thing. What gets tough about that is, I mean, the coaches build the whole game plan on Tuesday, and trying to suddenly say, oh, well, you get to Friday and now Watson can practice, and, oh, can we do this and that? And, the guys have repped all the stuff, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and, the game plan's been put in place. So, that can be a little bit much to make a shift like that, but who knows? I mean, LaFleur can definitely get creative at times. So we'll see.
Jason's given us kind of a bonus one in the comments. He said 274 passing yards for Love, 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown.
Super specific.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, I didn't have in either of my score predictions, I didn't have the Packers scoring 4 touchdowns. So I'll have to put the thumbs down.
All right, so my last one for the offense isn't super bold, but it does factor in kind of into what the Packers did well and what the Falcons did well last week. And I'm going to say 0 turnovers for the Packers offense.
Yep.
That'd be
sweet. Not super bold, but I think
you went crazy on defense and super vanilla on offense.
Okay, now listen, because Jesse Bates was brought up a shit ton of times, but nobody brought up AJ Terrell.
He's good.
I had him on my notes. We're kind of
all right.
We have time, so I did want to ask one question before we jumped out of here, if that's okay, Mike. And it was kind of interesting to me because it's about David Bakhtiari. And his disdain for turf. Last week, going into the game, no injury status. This week, questionable. Do you think this could be one of those things where he gets to the stadium, he tests I think we have 5 games this year where we play on turf, that he just has to see how the field feels, essentially. I mean, he absolutely – I don't know if there's any player in the NFL that's more vocal against turf than David has been. So I just thought it was kind of interesting to see him as questionable. I know Matt said he'll be questionable all year, but he wasn't questionable going into week 1. So it was just kind of that's interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would, I think what you're saying there is maybe a possibility. The other part that I wonder about is just now that he's played a game after having, not practiced for a while and getting him ready to play that game, are they still trying to figure out exactly what the recovery process and the recovery pattern is to get him ready to play again 7 days later, whether it's on grass or on turf?
That's a good point.
So it could be that the turf part of it is the potential question mark, or it could be just a little bit of uncertainty with his recovery process now that he's played a game and there's another one in 7 days. And that's where, when you talk about Bakhtiari, the fact that the Packers have a Thursday night game coming up in a couple weeks, you have that quick turnaround. And then obviously the other Thursday game, which is also against the Lions, will be on Thanksgiving, where they're going to be playing, the 2 games in a span of 5 days. With a guy like Bakhtiari and the schedule they have him on and stuff like that, that's really going to be something to watch, because for as vocal as he is about turf, I think those weeks he's going to probably be just as vocal about Thursday football in the NFL, because it's not necessarily conducive to the type of schedule that he'd like to be on.
And last thing too is it's interesting about Aaron Jones. There's a couple players on our team that if they don't practice, I feel fully comfortable with them going on playing. Aaron Jones, Bakhtiari are a couple of them. So we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah.
All right, Jason threw one more defensive bold prediction in here. He said 2 sacks for Gary, Van Ness, a sack, and a forced fumble.
Wow, that's pretty bold. I'm gonna say no. I'll have to give the thumbs down to that, only because I'm not sure. And this is again where the turf thing I think comes up is, how many more snaps is Rashawn Gary going to play? I mean, yes, he's certainly capable of playing more, but this game is also on turf as opposed to on grass. So I don't know if Rashawn Gary necessarily goes from a dozen snaps to suddenly 3 dozen snaps. As good as he was with the pass rush last week, this Atlanta offensive line is a little better than Chicago's. So, his pass rush win rate, pressure rate, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be really tough to repeat that, compared to what he did in Chicago.
All righty. Well, sounds like lots of fun things to watch for this Sunday. Should be just a good football game in general. Mike, we want to thank you again for taking 2 hours to spend time with us to talk about the Packers. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I enjoy it, fellas. It's always fun.
It's cool having the validation and the discussion of somebody who works for the Packers, somebody living the dream, and getting the insight from you as well. So we really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoy coming on, guys. It's always fun to talk to you.
And I think most people know where to find you or whatever, but you just want to throw a couple of where they can find some of your content from.
Yeah, I mean, Packers.com. That's where I'm at. I'm also on Twitter, or X, I guess, at Mike Spofford. But for those of you who know me, I'm not crazy active on social media. But go to the website. That all my work is there. It's got my name on it, and appreciate anybody who likes to consume it.
All righty. Well, we will be back. We're going to share our keys and our score predictions on Sunday morning. Otherwise, Jake and I will be back on Wednesday talking about the Brewers and the Badgers, and then we'll be back again next Friday night talking about this Falcons game.